Only on 5 tonight, a candid discussion on the role the church plays during times like these as pastors and theologians respond to concerns from their congregations about federal forces in their neighborhoods. Tonight, Jerry Askin sits down with 3 faith leaders, diverse in their perspectives on crime and crime fighting, united in their love for our city.
Dr. Kenneth T. Whalum Jr., pastor of New Olivet Worship Center in Cordova.
Memphis born, Memphis bred. When I die, I'll be Memphis dead.
Okay. Dr. Keith Norman, senior pastor at First Baptist Church Broad.
I'm not just from Memphis, though. I'm from South Memphis.
And Dr. Pete Gatke, professor of religion at Lemoyne Owen College.
I've been here nearly 30 years.
Joined me at the National Civil Rights Museum to discuss the church's role in the civil rights movement then and now.
Were it not for black and white pastors and other denominational leaders, there would have been no moral center for the movement. And it's moving to know that that still exists.
I would agree. Not just the conscious, but also the funding source, the private meetings and the public gatherings, the information system.
That was exactly what I was going to point to, is that these were places that African Americans could be safe, places of inspiration, places of theological visioning, so that the movement was certainly a political and social and economic movement, but it was a faith movement.
So right now there are a lot of questions about the federal occupation currently underway in Memphis. We're all trying to understand it, put these numbers that we're being given into context. But what conversations have you all had with city, county, state, or even federal leaders about the National Guard or federal occupation coming here to Memphis?
When word first came down that President Trump was thinking about sending in federal resources, Mayor Young convened a group of pastors and other faith leaders and other individuals to sort of let us know what he had heard was coming down the pike. A couple of things we talked about in that meeting with Mayor Young was pastors, particularly black pastors, supporting black-owned businesses, very small scale across the city, in a persistent and consistent way to try to strengthen the economy.
That's a civil rights model. Call the pastors together and let them communicate to their congregations and to the community and other stakeholders. And we just decided to double down on the things that we could do because the federal government did not communicate and still has not communicated effectively to our local leaders, as they should, in disseminating information as to how this playbook should unfold.
Well, I'll just say I haven't been consulted, which is, I think, true for most people in the city, right? And so we're left with a lot of questions on the part of, like, how is this being organized? Who's really in charge? And what is the focus? Is the focus on violent crime, or as we're seeing in the most recent report, it's a lot of traffic stops. Well, traffic stops are not going to really affect much in terms of violent crime, but they are going to target people who might have an expired tag or a headlight out or a rear light out. And who are those people? They're not the upper middle class.
Pastor Whalum, I know you mentioned bringing the National Guard 2 years ago because you believe it was needed then and still believe it's needed now. Why is that?
2023, everybody will recall there was a mass shooting on Beale Street. Hundreds of mostly black kids were gathered on the street. 8 of them were shot.
Yes.
And I, at that moment, called for the National Guard not because of any law enforcement kind of perspective, but because the National Guard is tasked to protect life and property.
First, to the point of Dr. Whalum, I could agree at the time of his calling for them at that moment more succinctly than I would at this moment, because the reasons are distinctly different. I think if we are talking about what we're seeing from the federal emphasis, the motivation is completely different, and that is what's concerning me.
We can't deny the truth of what he just said in terms of what Pastor Norman said about the motivation of the involvement of federal forces, in terms of the definition But we also cannot and should not ignore the truth of why they are here in the first place.
None of us disagree with the fact that there is a crime matter or issue in this city. It's the approach, it is the manner by which we are going about to try and solve it, the manner in which it's happening and the rhetoric by which it is unfolding, the terminology, and the very use of a system that seems to be oppressive and regressive to African American people. Let's face it, when we talk about unleashing the guard, and when we talk about unleashing forces in a community, that's almost like sending a signal of old to control and repression.
Well, it's a spectacle. For sure, especially around the National Guard. We have, how's the National Guard going to stop a murder? I just don't understand. It's not about crime. It's about an agenda at the national level that is anti-immigrant, that is anti-people of brown skin, and they are being targeted under this narrative of fighting crime. And it's easy, I think, that the anti-crime narrative, who wants to be for crime? Nobody's for crime, and yet crime is being used as this wedge to open a door for all sorts of authoritarian political activity on the part of different federal agencies. That's what I'm concerned about.
So as Jerry's conversation continued, the faith leaders opened up even more about not only their concerns, but also those of their congregations and their students. Up next, the doctors weigh in on the fear factor and where we go from here.